Welcome back, beer tubers. Today we're taking a look at a beer from Goose Island, and this is their Bourbon County Brand Barleywine, BCBBW, if you will. 12.1% malt beverage aged in bourbon barrels. So supposedly this is the same base beer they did for King Henry, and then they aged it in bourbon barrels that previously aged the Bourbon County Brand Stout. So, which is something similar they did with the Pappy Van Winkle barrels they use for rare. So similar, supposedly a similar base beer, similar kind of approach to the beer, using essentially the barrel for a third time after the bourbon and the stout went in there. So I got it poured out, and the first thing you notice is a very, very dark beer. It's definitely a dark brown. You see some ruby red highlights to it as well. It probably looks black on camera, but it's not. The head on there is pretty dark for a barley wine. It's approaching almost a darker brown color. Pretty good carbonation, nice alcohol legs. I can already smell it coming out of the glass. Oof, yeah, it smells awesome. Still get a lot of bourbon character, but dark fruits come very much apparent on the aroma. A lot of vanilla coming through, almost that toasted coconut character as well. A little bit of alcohol notes. You get some chocolate coming through. I'm guessing that's coming from the BCS. Don't know if the base beer originally had any chocolate kind of component to it, but if it smells like the beer has leached out some stout characteristic from the barrels as well. Big caramel toffee notes in there too, so it smells phenomenal. Let's dig in. Cheers. Oh, so nice. Very creamy, smooth mouthfeel. The alcohol is definitely present, but it's not distracting at all. Nice warming sensation going down the throat. Nice complexity to the beer. Oh, nice lingering finish to it as well. It's very sweet up front, but it's not a cloying beer whatsoever. It dries out nicely in the finish. Flavor-wise, it's absolutely a barley wine. You get a little less of that chocolate component, but up front, huge caramel toffee notes. Then you get a little bit of that dark fruit, that sort of like caramelized raisin characteristic comes to play. A little bit of a fig note. Then midway through, you start to pick up like just like a straight toffee note. The transitions to like a chocolate covered toffee characteristic. The finish has a lot of vanilla, toasted coconut-like character, some alcohol. Slight wood. You don't get a ton of wood character. There's like a little bit of a nuttiness too in the finish. Yeah, definitely like a macaroon sort of characteristic to it that I really like. Not overly oaky, just all the good things about the barrel. Some molasses notes in there as well, some like brown sugar notes. Kind of mix in with the toffee, the caramel. It kind of has that sweeter characteristic. Like huge sweetness, but it's just not cloying at all. It dries out nicely. The alcohol presence kind of helps that out. The beer has really nice complexity to it. Every time you take a sip, different flavors kind of come into the front, kind of are more intense than other times. Sometimes you get more of that like sugary, like almost like a date sugar characteristic. Sometimes the toffee comes out more. Sometimes those chocolate notes kind of peek through. Other times the sort of toasted coconut, macaroon, vanilla characteristic comes forward. Fantastic beer, phenomenal beer actually. A+ for me. Goose Island's been knocking it out of the park between these last, what, 3 years or so of Bourbon County Brand Stout, and then they've come back with this Bourbon County Brand Barleywine after doing King Henry, which was phenomenal too. Is it as good as King Henry? It's close. King Henry, the Pappy Van Winkle barrels really give a unique character to King Henry, and it's hard to replicate with other bourbon barrels. But this is, I still think, a phenomenal beer that's right there with it. So it's still getting an A+ for me. Highly recommend checking out this beer. So that's gonna wrap this one up. Until next time, please comment and subscribe. Cheers.